This is Jim O'Hare, and you are listening to the whole podcast. All of it.
Welcome to the whole.
Welcome to the whole. I am Rob Sprats.
I'm Franco Del Valle.
I'm Lori Levine.
And we are joined by Matt Walsh. Matt, we're very excited about this. Franco's nervous. I haven't seen Franco nervous or even just any life out of him in a very long time. And you brought it out of him. Got a Veep fans here. You got Comedy Bang Bang fans. You got, there's so much. And I was mentioning to you before we started, I always check the IMDb to find stuff that maybe I don't know about. And your IMDb alone, I had to keep clicking more and loading because you've been in so many things. And some of my favorite shows across the board. But, the one that to me is probably one of the most fantastic shows ever made, and I'm going to stand by that, is Veep. It is absolutely hysterical. It is one of the funniest things that I've seen. And you must be incredibly proud to be part of that group.
Yeah, I feel like the rarity of having like a really funny show and a great group of people and just stellar writing for 7 seasons is just, you're very lucky to get into that motor.
Yeah, and so I was a fan of Armando Iannucci from a show called The Thick of It, which was a show that he did, which is very similar to me that he did in England. And when I heard he was bringing it to America, I was concerned, as sometimes that happens when they bring a show over. But I think Veep is way better. I think it's way better. Funny in a different way, the different type of humor.
Yeah, I liked Armando from the Steve Coogan show that they do, Alan Partridge. That was my introduction, or I knew of Armando stuff. And then I'd seen The Thick of It, which was the sort of political comedy with Gandolfini in it. And then I hadn't really seen the TV show, the British TV show, but the sensibility of the script and the fact that he had the pedigree of working with like such good shows in that movie I'd just seen, I was dying to like get in and see, be in front of that creator, because he's a pretty prolific guy. Like Stalin, I really love Stalin. Did you see that one?
That one I didn't see. I know of it, but I haven't seen it.
Highly recommend that one. It's it's sort of his sense of humor in a very dark place about the Stalin dies and there's this grab for power and all these people are being murdered.
Oh, that's a great concept. I didn't. How old is that?
It's like 2 years old now, 3 years old. There's some huge laughs in it. Like Steve Buscemi's in it and Jeffrey Tambor's in it, and some great performances in it. Some great comedy. Highly recommend it.
Yeah, it seems that he's really good, and I don't know if I'm sure he's the one that has a hand in the final casting, but he's really good at picking, because for a show to be fantastic, I do think everyone needs to be excellent. It needs to be like the best shows of all time. Everybody's excellent, and Veep is no exception in that regard. So how does this? Do you audition for him right away? Like, how does this get started that you get into it?
Yeah, there was a role, Mike, that for whatever reason, my agent submitted to me. And so that was the only role I ever auditioned for. And it was like a gauntlet of 3 or 4 auditions. Mm-hmm. And then you have your final audition at the network. And then you make the pilot. And then if the pilot goes, we got our first series. And then every series after that, you're hoping they bring it back. Obviously, once it had some momentum, I think we all relaxed a little bit after like season 2 or whatever. We felt like, I think we'll come back. But it's that actor's journey of like wanting the show, because it's so good, because you get to make, like you said, I've been very fortunate to have been on some really good shows, films, comedy, etc. And but it's rare when it's all working and the public is aware of it. We all do like reels in obscurity. I think we all have. Maybe I'm patting myself back, but about it, it's equally more exciting,
Yeah, sure. And, you should pat yourself on the back, because, I mean, you work really hard your whole life to get a show like that. And, they come along once in a lifetime. And to wind up on it and it gets momentum. Like we had Jim O'Hare on, who actually mentioned you at one point. Yeah, and he was such a great guy. And he mentioned that as well. He mentioned that the fact that, people think that you show up overnight, like you were just hanging out, doing a regular job, and all of a sudden you're on a show. But, you work every day hoping to grab a show like that and get the attention. So once you get it, though, so do you know it's HBO at the time that you're doing the pilot?
Yeah.
Oh, you did. Okay, so you got a little more freedom than you would if it was network, which kind of helps.
Yeah, it's definitely like an R-rated, but also a good place to do a show. I'm just an actor. I wasn't a writer, but there never seemed to be any meddling by the network. Any ridiculous like micromanaging. They gave Armando and the writers a lot of freedom, as well as Julia kind of set the tone for the creative process too. She was a big collaborator from the inception of the show, and the process was very, playful and improv friendly, which played to my strengths as a trained improviser out of Chicago. So it was always kind of perfectly suited for various reasons because of Armando's, initial idea, and like Julia, and then the various pieces of the cast that came together. Like Anna's a great first chief of staff. Like she's so high strung. She's so perfect at that role. And Tony is Julia's second, or just, worshiping Selena Meyer at every given moment and mugging, the lights off.
Yeah.
So
it's fantastic. And, even Timothy, Jonah,
Diamonds, come on.
And you go, I mentioned how everybody needs to be great, but now you take it to another level. And even, the people who play the congressman and everyone just nails their parts. But the thing I love about his shows is that the pace is pretty frantic, but it's also very biting. Like there's the digs are deep, every one of them. But one of the things I wondered, the insults tend to really become, I know as any show, as they write season to season, the first one they write it, but then they start writing it for the actors. So now all of a sudden the insults are specifically about you and your physical look. And then, so you start to get scripts that are insulting the way you look because you're
Which is funny because it's as the show's getting more successful, you're now, taking it harder.
Yeah. Well, because you're more public, I guess, right? I mean, it's like doing a roast. Like, I would never do a roast, like how the Friars have that format and Comedy Central has that format. And it's under the guise of charity, but like people are like lights out cruel verbally.
Yeah.
Like really cruel.
Yeah.
And
Very abusive.
I can't even pose under the guise, like I do a lot of charity work, so I don't need to do that to help people. You know what I mean? But under the guise of charity, it just doesn't cover it for me. Like there's no world where I'm going to get up there and let people like shred me necessarily,
Right. Yeah. No matter
as an actor, like telling jokes is part of it. And, fortunately for Mike or whatever, like I embraced it all. Like you have to embrace it all. And you also, it's a very loving set. Everyone loves each other, like Tim and Reed and Julia and Tony and Anna. We all get along swimmingly. So there's that. But it is challenging when you hear something that sort of describes you in a way like, oh, I'm a sad egg. They called Mike a sad egg in season 2. You look like a sad egg or a gay Irish fireman. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, and it gets right. If anybody, Timothy got the worst of that, I think.
Oh my God. And he really embraced, like he showered in it. He reveled in it. And I think that's what inspired the writers. He embraced it. And I think you can't really dodge it. You just have to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you got to go all in. I guess you're like, hell, what the hell? Let them make fun of me. It's a great show, And when you mentioned that it's improv friendly, so how much of that we watch is already on the page when you get it?
I think I say simply, like, as the seasons went on and the characters were solidified, the improv tended to leak out of the process. And so by the time it was, early mid seasons, it was pretty scripted, but in the early seasons and in the development of the pilot, there was a ton of improv. And then writers would sit in the room and take notes, and then some of your stuff would be in the reflected in the scripts. Mm-hmm. And then as the show went on, there's always a problematic scene where sometimes we put it on our feed or, try to fix it that way, or the director might want to do something with it. So there was improv then, but honestly, by the end of it, there was so much to cover. Our final season felt like a Simpsons retrospective. They were trying to get every funny character involved in the plot, and you know what I mean? And there was just so much real estate to cover. So there wasn't a lot of time to let's just take 30 minutes and find a beat at this convention that's a physical gag, or but we all, and to say there was no improv is not true either, because you always improvise it when you rehearse it. Like you get on your feet, and we did have great freedom to sort of improvise it as the blocking was going, and we would discover things, and so there was true discovery. But once those rhythms were set, it wasn't about finding new riffs or anything. If things happened, we went with it, and sometimes it got used. But generally, the freedom and the ownership of the characters was about how can we pack as many rehearsed moments or scripted moments into this scene.
Yeah, makes sense. Would you mind just tilting a little, because your head's getting cut off a little bit? Tilting the laptop just a bit?
Or tilting your head.
I think you just, the screen of your computer. I was like, I thought you were frozen there for a second. It's happened to us.
Yeah, can you just do this for 45 minutes?
Yeah,
is that a big deal?
Like a water?
Like a pendulum. It's perfect.
Pendulum, yeah. Or like the cat, the Chinatown cat.
Yeah, you gotta wave. Yeah.
I thought you froze, and the reason why I say that is because it's been happening to us lately. We got hit by a storm here on Long Island, and I did an interview. We had an interview set up with Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Awesome.
And I was like, this is so cool. I'm excited, big fan and everything. So we get all set up. We do everything. He signs on. He's got all these gold records behind him, and I'm like, Dennis, man, thank you so much. He's like, okay, let's do it. I'm ready. And he's a cool guy. And the second I'm about to start, a tree hits my house and the power goes out about to start. Yeah. Like the second.
Oh my God. You're kidding me. That's amazing.
Yeah. So the phone rings and it's him. And I answer. He's like, "What happened? You froze." And I told him. He's like, "Oh no, don't worry, we'll do it again. Please be safe and everything." And I hung up. And I was like, "All right, Dennis DeYoung wants me to be safe, so I'm going to be okay." But so, we have. We're doing it on Monday. Yeah. So anybody who's listening to this next week, Dennis DeYoung will be joining us. So set me up for a nice plug, unless another act of nature comes and ruins it for me. But So with Veep now, when you wind up taking those contributions that you do in writing, it's kind of a way in the rehearsals you kind of are contributing to the writing, because I got to think that you need to know those lines really well, because the pace is so fast and everyone's moving on that show. It's almost like a West Wing-ish kind of thing, the way people are moving around so fast, coming in and out of the room. So, this is something that I always thought about, because I was always interested in improv, but at the same time, I always thought, are you ever get nervous that you're not going to remember every line? Like that would freak me out, I think.
I think you have enough success under your wing that you take a journeyman's approach, and it's like, I'm probably not going to fuck this up. So there's that. Also, it's just comedy. You just get another take. But if you have big chunks of monologue, like if you have a big monologue, it never fails if you do your monologue off camera. Depending on how they shoot something, if you have a big monologue in a scene, they're going to come in and probably get a lot of you here. So they usually start out wide. So you get this rehearsal, like, oh, I get to run my monologue in the wide. And then, oh my God, they're shooting that side of the scene next. So I get to run my monologue again, and I'm crushing my monologue. And then they swing around and it's like, And I've been doing it like 5 or 6 times on the other angles, and then the minute it's on me, it's like, it's that human flaw of like, relax, what happened? You had it. And then you get it. Then you kind of get it. And you kind of come back to it.
Yeah, and you get into the rhythm. So,
well, did you ever fuck up so bad and everyone's like, oh, Matt, can't remember. We got to redo it again?
I've had roles, but early in my acting career where I felt like I was miscast. Like one was early on in like this crazy comedy musical called Co-Ed Prison Sluts. And it was this funny musical, and the guy who was the
musical too.
Wait, is that on his internet IMDb?
It's just a play. It wasn't TV or anything. But I replaced a guy who originated the role, okay? So this is like a role, came out of Chicago, and I'd seen this guy do it, this guy Tom Booker, and he was so good, I just psyched myself out. There was no way I was going to get it right, and I never really got that part, and eventually they found another part for me in the show. Do you know what I mean? So
yeah.
That's an example of like, but if you get cast, that's an example of like, in my mind, thank God they put me in another role, because I never really felt like I could consistently nail it like that guy I sort of worshipped did it before me, you know, that I understudied, if you will.
Yeah.
So that kind of gets in your head. If you're understudying, I think that can, but with successive trials and, you know, you have witnessed yourself execute under pressure, you sort of assume that you'll probably be, you know, 90% good.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, especially if you, like you mentioned, you do it so much that, you know, I mean, it's all you do. So, I mean, when you get that role, I'm sure you work on it like crazy. And I bet you know, coming from an improv background, I bet you that also helps in a way too, because you've done it in front of people, you've done it in front of crowds, you've done it with absolutely no idea of what you're going to say next. So now at least you get, you know, you can take what you learn from that and then apply it to actually the written word.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, there's not a lot of work now, but generally when you're in your rhythm, that's exactly right.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a minute. So now what's going on is, you know, it's horrible for everyone across the board, and especially for entertainers and for musicians and for actors. I know it's hard for everybody. But do you see a point where they're going to start getting things going again under bubbles, more so than other, like, you know, because obviously offices with 20 floors of employees is one thing, but when you have a production, you can kind of control it a little bit more. Do you have any rumbles that they're starting to talk about doing that at this point?
Yeah, there are rumbles. It seems like here in LA there was something was shot, you know, just the other day on a street in Hollywood or whatever. It made the newspaper or whatever. So it seems like they're inching forward with, oh, okay, we're going to try this. And so I have read protocols I have a couple projects that I'm developing, and we're figuring out how a movie would work or how a shoot would work. And I may even be going to like upstate New York, Kingston. In what should I do in Kingston, you guys, if I go?
I'm not sure, but I might see you, because that's one of the places we're looking to move.
Yeah,
All right.
You can hang out.
There's Mohonk Mountain House. It's really nice.
See, here's the thing. If they mention only one place, that's
the one place.
It's sorry.
You're in the center of the universe of that particular town or that particular area.
Yeah, hopefully we'll play cards or something.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much there. I'm not gonna lie.
Are they giving tax breaks to shoot there? Cuomo should take advantage right now.
I don't know. I'm not a producer on it, but they should. I would think New York has tax incentives.
Yeah.
So does LA. But so in general, it is inching forward, but I don't have like a crystal ball, like when it'll be normal, because the setbacks could be weird. Like they're talking about opening schools in New York, right? Public schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That in one version could trigger a huge spike in cases again, right? You got all these like teenage kids making out with each other again, or whatever happens, you know, or sitting in desks together, and then it explodes it, and then that could reverse things. But the other version is like businesses are open and things are functioning in this weird, chaotic way, I don't know, but I have no answers. Trump's terrible.
I agree.
I do love your Twitter, Matt. I love and totally agree with your politics.
Yeah, we all do.
I'm very tame. I need to be louder. I'm very tame on Twitter, but I guess we all have to start shouting more as we ramp up to the election.
It's funny you say that because we've been doing this show for 10 years now, right? And I normally would stay away from that stuff just because it was polarizing and, but when COVID started, we changed a lot too. And, we do the show like this now. We used to do it at the Comedy Cellar. They had a studio in Manhattan. We used to do it there. We started doing it this way. And we had on Noel Kassler, and what Noel was, he worked on The Apprentice for 10 seasons worth.
Well,
and he came on and he told all of his stories that he had.
And before The Apprentice, he worked on the beauty contests.
Wow.
Yeah.
And,
wow, that's a good get.
He was great. And the stories are equally as disgusting as you would think and equally as infuriating as you would think. When it was done, I had no reason not to believe the guy because pretty much everything he said seemed to fit the bill. To everything from when he was at the beauty pageant judging and the girls were lined up.
Stop. That was the Miss Teen.
The Miss Teen, yes. Thank you for clarifying. He would go and put his fingers in their mouth to look at their teeth.
Like how you buy a horse.
Right. Like like checking a horse. That's what you said, like you're buying a horse. But there is one great revelation that came out of that you will really enjoy, Matt. It will make you feel a little better tonight. And that's that he's incontinent and frequently shits his pants, which is why he wears a girdle.
Because of the diet that he keeps and the Adderall that he takes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Adderall, is that the addiction?
Yeah, he said it was Adderall. He said he used to do.
He snorts it.
Oh, I thought the addiction was pussy that was unaccounted for.
No, that's just for grabbing.
That's the secondary one. But he even he pointed out that famous picture where he's eating the taco bowl, to all of a sudden show that he loves Latinos. You know that famous picture?
Yeah, I believe that was Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, he's eating taco bell or something, right? In the drawer, it is boxes of Adderall. You can see it in the photo. So he pointed that out. But it's funny because that episode is doing very well naturally, but at the same time, the comments, I have to go in every couple of days and just get rid of the psychopaths that are in there, because they're all trying to attack the guy. If somebody just gives a general debate about it and says, I don't know, I don't believe it or something, that's fine. But there are people going in there and just hammering Trump, fuck you. It's so disgusting the way they behave.
Are they people defending Trump or are they people?
Yeah. It's both. But the people who defend Trump, they go straight low. It's
not defending. It's fanatical. It's nothing I've ever seen before in politics.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Stockholm syndrome almost. It's just everyone is so fucked and everyone has nothing to show for it. And yet they're like, yeah, we love this guy. Yeah. It's insane. Yeah. It's really wild. It's almost
he's against our own interests, but we're going to put him back.
I know.
Right. It's he's the equivalent of if you have nice teeth and somebody's like, you know what if we give you flippers instead? What if we just give you we remove your teeth and you can have flippers instead, and you'll never have an issue going forward. It's well, why didn't we just keep the natural thing? It's no, let's give you flippers. You'll be fine.
And they'll take it. They'll take whatever he gives them. And it's, that's always kind of been the MO of the Republican Party is most people vote against their own. They'd rather own the libs than actually, discuss what's actually going on. But do you get a lot of that shit on Twitter when you do take a stance? I'm sure you got to get some people jump in there and
yeah, I think occasionally my support is definitely lefty, but my Twitter is probably moderate. You know what I mean? I don't engage in political because I'm not a pundit, and also it's just it's an echo chamber. You're not going to, it seems like you won't convert people when you want to convert people. So I lay low generally on the social media, but it's a strange time. Yeah, because it is dire straits. 4 more years of that guy and we're all in breadlines. I'm not even kidding.
I agree.
We're like wishing for President Selena right now.
I know, the unmooring of decency in this, like, I don't know. We'll see. But it's also, I don't know. I'm not an optimist, but it all changes. I know, like, blacks were Republican for Ike Eisenhower. He signed a civil rights bill, and, like, most blacks in this country for, like, 6 years were Republicans. So I don't know where this, under the banner of republicanism, like, I don't even know what their values are. I agree. There's just too many cronies making money. Those are the real bandits. Like, Trump's an idiot and a buffoon and he's winning, but all these people that suck up to him or just live under his wingspan, those are the real dirtbags, and those are the people that need to get kicked out of office.
Yeah, like in the bars, and these are the people that are really doing
Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham.
Yep.
Yeah.
I see, like, and I'm kind of hopeful, because I don't know, I fell for this last time, but I do really feel like enough people seem to be against him now that I'm hopeful, if, let's just say, if all things happen fairly, which I'm very hesitant to even think that that's
Sure.
But I kind of see now, he seems to me like a chicken that has his head cut off now. Like, he's just done.
Just now?
Yeah, well, no, the difference is, like, before, like, he was aggressive and everybody would follow him and the people who were on the fence would listen to him. Now that I think he knows that he's really in trouble, he's just blah, 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 just like.
Do you think that it's mostly like that maybe he was just a senile man saying whatever he wanted, and now there's another senile old man, like, saying whatever he wants, and they're just gonna, like, peck at each other until somebody gets chosen? Like,
Biden,
like two roosters trying to, like, roost. I don't know. Like,
I think
it is ironic that Biden becomes the premier Democratic candidate for this, like, left push, but it is what it is. Like, I'll take him every day of the week. We have to get Trump out of there.
Yeah, I'd vote for a flaming bag of shit.
I like Biden. Yeah, I like Biden too. Like, I like him. I think he's a good candidate, and I think as long as he's sharp, let him run it. I think, and if I was Biden, or what I like to believe about our side, because I'm assuming we're all lefties, is that I hope that, like, Biden's team is meeting with the CDC right now and saying, what can you tell us? Like, we're thinking of doing this the minute that we have our meeting with you. Like, are those meetings happening? Not that you're not guaranteed to win anything, but I got to believe, like, the federal government's disappointing handling of the coronavirus, which is because of Trump and he doesn't hire people, could be quickly fixed, because certainly we're throwing money at it, could be quickly fixed if there was some organizational through the central bank of government that built to fucking do this.
Right. No, I completely agree. But I don't know, do you even think that he would allow Biden to talk to the CDC? Because like any other normal president,
you're right,
would, but
you're right. He would probably make it a fight. He would probably say he doesn't get to do that until he wins.
Right.
Yeah, I would say any president that won't allow his predecessor to have his portrait in the White House is probably not somebody who's going to give you, like, clearance to talk to the CDC. I don't know. Like, it's really wild.
But aren't there levers of government? Like, at some point, if you're the front runner for either party, don't they tell you some nuclear secrets and stuff in the event?
I think once you win a nomination, I think.
Yeah, I think they show you the aliens after that. Like, they're like, here's Area 51. This is what you didn't know about.
And they
That's
look
the first thing they do. It's like, we're going to Roswell.
Aliens.
I had your fucking mind blown.
I was a guest on some other podcast. I had such a debate with this guy about the aliens, and he was like all set, like, it's proven. So I'm like, what's proven? He's like, listen, they are admitting that they have seen UFOs. I'm like, do you understand what a UFO is? It's unidentified. They didn't say it's an alien craft. They said they admitted they're investigating UFOs. I want to see proof that it's an alien. I would love for it to be true, or maybe not. Maybe it's bad. Who knows? That's all.
I fucking want Ripley giving birth to an alien like baby. That's what I want. If it doesn't happen that way, it didn't fucking happen. That's all I gotta say about it.
All right.
Wow. That's his platform. So if he ever ran, would just be he wants an alien baby.
I couldn't be your president. I'm not from this country. So,
Well, maybe we'll change.
Neither was Ted Cruz. So
That's true.
well, he was born on a plane. Wasn't it the whole thing?
no, he said he was a naturalized citizen.
Yeah.
Was he born in Canada? Was that the whole thing with him?
Yeah,
Yeah. Whatever. Nonsense. Anyway.
and his dad killed JFK. So
Yeah, that's all.
No, that was my dad.
Oh, killed Jack Ruby, I thought.
Trump said that he killed JFK. He was involved in killing
Oh, that's right.
JFK.
You're right. I'm sorry.
See,
And anything he says is fact. You know that.
Yeah,
but that's where the brilliance of that party comes in. And I use brilliance in a weird way, but nefariously brilliant. Is they say a lie over and over and over and over and over and over again until some people start repeating it. And they don't care they don't give a shit if you come right back and say, but facts. Like if you watch that Axios interview, which everyone, I love that one. That was great, just watching him just shit himself. But so there's a crazy Trump supporter that I know that I wanted to put it in his face. And I couldn't wait to see what the retort. I'm like, if you watch this, I'm like, how can you tell me? Just tell me he's an intelligent man. Admit that he's not an intelligent man. That's all I want to hear. And the response was, that guy was smug. He was rolling his eyes and disrespectful to the office and blah, 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 blah. And that was the talking point. Never did they say, Trump is an idiot. He couldn't answer the questions. They completely ignore it. And now he was disrespectful to the president. He was rolling his eyes. Like
this is all I have to say about that is like I run social media for the brand I work for, and we posted about Barack Obama's birthday, and I was like, hey, happy birthday to the Prez, like something we posted, and everyone loved it, but one fucking weirdo was like, fuck the Obamas, Trump is your president. And it's this weird authoritarian thing.
Yeah.
It's just like we can't say happy birthday to a guy whose like smile is actually pretty enlightening. Like it's just like it's so delightful. I don't know. Like he's funny. Like like did he have some like failed foreign policies and like did he do everything he said he was gonna do? Like no, like it's a game at the end of the day.
He didn't have the Congress or the Senate, so
right. It's just like exactly. But like it's just one of those things where it's just like we can't even wish a guy happy birthday because where's the passport or like where's the birth certificate rather.
Yeah, it's a very politicized moment, and his informal the way like Steve Mnuchin, he's like a Wall Street dude who like he's another toady that's like corrupt.
Mm-hmm.
I just read today that he was on Epstein's island and one of those guys.
Light Manifest.
Yeah.
Truth be told, I might have been too though, and I just may not remember.
Yeah, but
that's all I gotta say. No, not at all.
Are you working or traveling as
I am not his type or the president's type. I'm not like a 14-year-old girl, unfortunately.
Matt, you haven't seen him shaven down. It's a whole different look. So
it's very feminine. It's very prepubescent feminine.
And one of the things that it's funny as I was preparing for you, because I am a professional, of course. As I was preparing for you, Matt,
thank you.
One of the things I thought of was there's not much. I don't think did they ever mention party at all in Veep? At all. They do not. You do not know at any point if it's Republicans or Democrats. Maybe there's some discussion on policy, but they never ever mention that. And it's fantastic to pull that off without anybody even thinking about it. I just realized it in I watched this probably my 7th run through these episodes. And I thought of that. I was like, at no point do they ever touch on which party is which. Like, you kind of want to hope that the people you root for are the same as yours. But it was a brilliant move to not be specific as not to alienate anyone. This is a fucked up administration, no matter what party they're affiliated with.
Yeah, hopefully, knock on wood, it'll be over soon. Like that's the hope. We're all acting in good faith. In this quarantine, we're just like, all right, I'll get up, I'll make breakfast, I'll bake bread, I'll take the kids to school. And we're all acting in good faith. It's like the plane crash that we're just going to develop a routine and soon enough somebody will find us. So go find firewood every morning. Go round up some water. Like that's how we're all behaving. We're just hanging on in good faith that it's all going to turn around.
Any day now, they're going to come for us.
Yeah, like how many? Good.
Sorry. Oh, I was going to say part of the brilliance might also be the fact that, you know, the parties, while they may have protagonists and antagonists in them, are not very different. It seems like the ends are always very similar, no matter which party it is that you follow. Like, obviously, like, I am very anti-Trump, but policy is policy at the end of the day. And, like, it seems like both sides are very similar in policy. It's just the presentation is sometimes different.
Yeah,
and maybe that's... Sorry, no, yeah, that was all I had to say.
No, I don't know. Like, I'm always hopeful that young people will figure out a little more than we do. Like, you know, there is an awakening, hopefully, that's continuing out of, you know, the Me Too movement and Black Lives Matter, and people are trying to grow into other people's perspectives, you know, like, so, and also demographics, the way the country's going to become more diverse anyway. So what politicians look like has to change, right? Like, it seems like
Sure.
eventually, although money is power, and like you think it's changing, and let alone we have another like 70-year-old white guy on our side who might be president. Like, it is weird.
Yeah, I know, it's true.
That is repeating something that we're familiar with. But my two things are like, I'm radical in that, like, I liked the idea of like the universal income where everybody gets a check every week.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the idea of like everybody has to do like 18 months of like service. So between like your gap year, it's like the military in other countries, but you have to do like, you got to do a year and a half so everybody meets each other. And so kids from Arkansas go to boot camp with Beverly Hill kids or whatever, you know what I mean? And New York kids meet the Illinois kids, and like, and you have to do 2 months of boot camp and you can't get out of it. And then you can go dig trenches for fiber optics in Omaha, or you can go fight fires in, you know, Colorado, or you can sign up for military and get more military training. But like, everybody has to do that. And then you can fund all these projects. Because what happens when the central government is meandering is the infrastructure continues to crumble at an accelerated rate. So there's going to be all these projects because we are just sort of this behemoth right now. There's no respect in the world for our foreign policy. Everybody dismisses our fucking leader as a clown. Yep. So nothing's really happening, but we're surviving kind of, and money and greed still exists. So the stock market's great and the rich people are still taken care of. So the people that work for the rich people still have jobs, but it's this weird, the equalization of stuff hasn't really happened yet. I don't know.
Yeah. And
so we have to eat the fucking rich is what you're saying.
I'm not that rebellious.
No, I'm just joking.
I think
I'm just being a dummy.
My favorite candidate out of the bunch was Pete Buttigieg, I think, because, you know, and that military idea, I think, was his. I don't think he probably would have had a chance to win because I don't trust America to look past someone's, you know, orientation or anything, as sad as that is. And I was such a fan of him.
Yeah.
And he was the most intelligent person out of the group. He's a little young. Yeah. He's a little young, but he was the most intelligent.
Which is fucking crazy to me that like ageism is a thing. And like, you have people running a country that have been running it for like 20, 30, 40, sometimes 50 years. And it's just like, at a certain point, like, we're no longer 50 years ago. Like, we're now. And like, I want somebody who's like at least 20 fucking years between me and 51. Like, that's who I want. It's just somebody who like has some understanding of like student loans and like, this is getting really fucking deep, by the way. But like, yeah, like, I want somebody who like has something to relate to me. Like, I can't relate to somebody who's in their 70s and wealthy. Like, there's a fucking disconnect where we have nothing in common, and we never will. And so, yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe Buttigieg would have been somebody who like would have established some sort of system where like I can find some sort of semblance to myself, which I have not had I've been in this country for 23 years now, and I've never had a politician that I could like relate to.
Yeah. Could you imagine?
AOC is probably like the closest to it. now, and she gets ridiculed left and right.
Yeah.
But I'm just talking about age. I'm not even talking about like ideals. We're just talking about age.
Could you imagine a guy like Buttigieg on a debate stage with Trump? I mean, it's ridiculous. But the sad part is the intelligence wouldn't matter because look, Hillary.
No, they would just attack it physically because Pete was very short and Trump is such a big guy, and it would just, I mean, they would just make fun of him so hard just because of physical appearances.
How would you attack Lori? You're a political person. How would you attack Trump in a debate?
How would I Trump?
How would you attack him if you got to be a candidate?
I honestly would first say, name all your grandchildren. I don't even think he can name 2.
That's a good one.
I mean, I've thought of this so many times. Like, I just read Mary Trump's book, so I mean, there's so much to go on with him. Like the 7 bankruptcies. I'd say, you know, and then like, of course, the loans that he was given from Deutsche Bank over and over again. I would want him to explain this. Like, how could everyone on the right wing says he's so good for the economy. He's never done anything himself. So how could he be good for the economy? The stock market's over 20,000. Who's that helping? It's helping billionaires. It's not helping any normal people.
Yeah, right. Trump is like the Jay Gruden of fucking like politicians, like and businessmen. He just like keeps getting fucking goes on a racist platform, and he's just like allowed to continue doing it. I don't know.
But I was telling like the story. I have a dog walker. He's let's say he's like sort of on the spectrum, right? And he's a super nice guy, and he takes my dog and takes good care of him. But he said to me, you know, you got to give it to Trump because he's good for the economy. And I'm like, you're just saying that because you've heard everyone say that. I was like, Jose, is he helping you? Are you doing any better than you were 3.5 years ago? And he's like, no, but I think he's good for the economy. That's what the Democrats don't do. They don't stick with something. Just keep saying it. Doesn't matter if it's true. Say you're going to have a vaccine.
Yeah, we got to get dirty. I do agree. They got to get dirty.
I hate this, like, you know, being the honorable side. Don't fuck that. That doesn't work.
I know.
Yeah, that's why I'm hoping Biden comes out and just calls him a little bitch first week. Just like comes out and just says it out loud.
I like the idea of asking his grandkids' names. I think that's a good path to go down. And I would go further and say, what's the name of the guy who runs the Army Corps of Engineers? And say, I actually read his article. What's his name? Name 2 guys that are on the Joint Chiefs of Staff right now, Mr. President. I would just
name your wife.
Name your wife.
Just keep going. Just keep like quizzing him on stuff.
Yeah.
But he'll call you a small dick, small hand, questionable American or whatever he'll do.
Yeah. Unpatriotic attacking the president.
I wish I could run for president because he'd be like, you're not patriotic and you're not American. I'd be like, you're absolutely right. I'm not American. I'm here to take over America.
But you know, actually, Matt, this kind of brings me a little bit back to you at the Daily Show because
great transition, Rob.
Like,
great transition.
Can I end it right now? End it right now. So, but in all seriousness, like that actually you did important work under the guise of comedy, and it was incredibly funny. But that actually, the shows like that, like, you know, I do watch John Oliver every week, you know, and I do watch, you know, the Daily Show and shows like that, especially, you know, in the John era. I loved it. And, you know, I don't want to be that guy who says I get my news from the Daily Show, but I do get my facts from them, you know, because I don't want to watch 24/7 news because it's too much. So, you know, when you're like, do you realize that you're contributing to that when you're on that show?
You know, the Daily Show was like guerrilla social terrorism. Like you went into interviews and hopefully you were skewering the right people, but you were sort of tricking them to say things in your pre-written sketch. So it was kind of like, as Stephen Colbert told me, you just check your soul at the door, and you're going to be mean. You're going to be mean to nice people, you know, a little bit, but hopefully you're picking targets that deserve it, you know.
Right.
So that's my take on like my push for like helping. Like, yeah, I'm sure Jon Stewart educated people about issues and gave them nice, sound bites or understanding of complex issues, and it probably benefited some of the polls. People who watch that show maybe got more active. But I see myself as an actor. Like, I can't. I worked with Frank Rich or people like Lori who knows a lot about politics. I consider myself an actor or a comedian, so I'm just trying to do the best version of what's been given to me, like the page or.
Yeah. Was there ever a situation that you went into that you were a little nervous about doing something like that? Because sometimes you go into maybe the NRA guys and stuff like that. Is there ever?
Yeah, we did a thing on a show called Dog Bites Band where we harassed the head of the Ku Klux Klan in Western Tennessee. So we were at a rally.
Holy shit.
And it was people had guns and they weren't supposed to have guns. And we had like a sound guy who had a gun, but that was our only defense. And it was like we were definitely harassing the head, the Grand Wizard. And I was playing a news reporter named Kevin Beacon on a show called Dog Bites Band. So that was like, we had to skedaddle. We said, we're going to go get lunch. And then we never came back. That was like, because we figured out like, oh, that's why go back. And then I was in a coal mine. I forget where we were doing a Daily Show piece. And the guy said,
West Virginia.
Maybe. I forget where we were. You know where we were? We were in Nevada. You know that nuclear waste site they drilled into the mountain?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they've ever shipped nuclear waste there, but I think they're still digging. It's like in the Hot Springs, Nevada desert. Mm-hmm. And there was a guy taking us to the center of the earth. Basically, you're going down in this dig, and we had access to it. And he said, I think he saw us as like the liberal media troublemakers, and he said he had a coal miner's mentality. He's like, you point that camera at me, when these lights go out, I'll hit you in the head with a wrench.
Holy shit.
And he meant it.
Yeah.
He meant it. He's like, don't pull me into your little charade, clown guys.
Holy shit.
And then the producer I was with, who had nerves of steel, this guy Evan, very funny man, he was frozen. He was scared because that guy it was like a 50-year-old union dude who was not around. Mm-hmm. And then the lights went out and we drove through this dark, thing to get to the bottom of the pit. And it was like a little scary, but not really scary, but a little scary.
Yeah, especially if you're going deep into the earth and a guy's threatening you.
Well, and if that guy
he was the operator of this slow little elevator train going down. I think it was a train elevator kind of going down, but it got really dark. And then it was like,
guy hit with a wrench. He's a hero in that union, so he has nothing to lose.
Yeah, and you just know when people mean it. It's just like if somebody says, "Hey, man, I got a gun," and you look at them, I'm like, I bet they have a gun. Like he meant it.
Right.
He meant it. You don't want to find out on the other side of that interaction. So
I was going to say, like, my question with that would be like, at what point do you think, like, when you're in character and you're doing something, like whether it's to get a reaction or to like prove a point, like at one point, like, do you step out of that? Like if you're playing like a satirical character and you go like, you know what, like this is over. Like I can't keep it going.
Yeah, there's a couple times where we did. One was for Dog Bites Man, and another one was for the Daily Show, and we pulled the plug on like somebody we were interviewing. It was a little cruel, and I was like, we can't. This is not cool. What's happening here? I'm out. And so I backed out of it. And then the other one, someone started crying, and then we're like, you know what?
Yeah,
we're gonna give you some space here.
Yeah.
And I guess that's always been my thing, because like I watch these things, and as an outsider looking in, it's very funny because you can separate your feelings and you relate to whoever the character is that like is basically like picking at this other human being to show like whatever the error in their thinking is, right? And I guess like for me, it's always fascinating. It's like you're acting, right? Like you said, you're an actor. You're out there acting. You're getting the reaction that you're like supposed to get for this like show. It's just like, at what point does like humanity hit and you're like, man, I'm being a real fucking shithead right now. And just like, but yeah, it's fascinating because you only see the end of the production. You don't see like the in between of it. So that's particularly interesting to me.
Yeah. And I think like Sacha Baron Cohen is more of a provocateur than I am. Like he's braver than brave, that guy, I'm not willing to go to those efforts, nor do I want to like go through that. Like I prefer acting with people, other actors, you know.
But I think he also has a lot of security with him. When he was doing the Giuliani one, Giuliani said he had so much security.
Yeah. And also, like running. Yeah, that's possible. I don't know.
But you have like one sound guy that had a gun.
Well, in that case, we were kind of, and some of those people ended up working for Sasha. It was like this tribe of guerrilla filmers who were fearless, you know, the camera dudes and some of the, you know, AD. You need brave people to go on those shoots and willing to like, it is like social terrorism. You're willing, when you're out on the road doing like a Sasha or a prank show, it is a little bit like you're literally just going like, I don't know. If the police ever show up, you're like, I don't know. You just keep saying, I don't know. And then you back up and you get back.
You like tap out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. After a while, it's like, this isn't act. I don't want to do this. This is hard.
What were you before that? So what were you like, what was the state at the time that they offered it to you? What were you doing at the time? Like, was it something that you were excited about when you first got it? And then
The Daily Show?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a tremendous opportunity. Jon Stewart was great to me too. I was doing UCB for 3 seasons, and then I did a couple remote pieces. A guy named Rich Corzum was a producer for Comedy Central. He's like, you should do one of these. And so I said, I'll do one. So I did one, and they liked me, and I did a couple, and then they hired me. They gave me a contract for a year, and I worked with Mo Rocca was my suite mate. It was lovely. It was great.
Love Mo. One of my favorites.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah, he also has that voice, that little lispy voice that I just puts me to sleep. Really lulls me. Love it.
It's just
he had a show, My Grandma's Meatloaf, that he did on the Food Channel for a while. That was really good.
Yeah, he's one of those people that like he could be on NPR for the rest of his life if he really wanted to.
Well, he does CBS. He does all my favorite shows. They're boring, but I love them. CBS Sunday Morning, all these like nice, you know, news upbeat pieces, puff pieces.
Yeah.
He's on.
Back when there were gyms, I used to go to one, and Mo Rocca would be on at like 10 a.m. in the morning on a Sunday, and I'd be like, wow, I haven't seen you in a while. And then I would just sit there and stare instead of getting changed and going to work out.
Yeah. No. So,
but it is crazy though that the parallels between what's going on and you know, a show like Veep and everything that, you know, when it started, I thought Julia was basing it on Sarah Palin, but I don't know if that's actually.
I thought that too.
It's not true.
No, it's not
true. It's an amalgam. Like truly, like I'm sure there was inspirations of Sarah moments, but the character was whole cloth. Like let's combine. I'm sure there's a little Hillary in there. I'm sure there's like other politicians that Julia added. You know what I mean?
What did you?
I see some Clinton in there every once in a while.
Yeah.
What did you do to prep for Mike? Did you get any access to what it's actually like, or did you guys just kind of guess what it was going to be like? What are consultants?
Yeah, no, a tremendous amount of research went into the character. Like every season we would go to DC and interview with congressmen and lobbyists and big shots and publicists and people who worked in the staff and go out with drink later and get the nitty gritty truth about how politicians behave.
You must have. Did you hear a lot of stuff that scared you in those conversations?
Well, back in that day, it was like pre-Trump when there was a sort of there was a predictive pattern to politics. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was just the wave. We were coming in at the wave of the Tea Party insurrection into the House of Representatives, and it was the beginnings of people complaining about like these guys never shut up. These Tea Party guys, they treat the House like the Senate. They should shut up and just vote. You know, that's what was kind of the research we were getting when we started.
Yeah, and then sorry, go ahead.
No, it was like Obama was president. I don't know who was president 8 years ago. Obama, right? Yeah,
it was Obama.
So it was like half of the rest of his term. So shut down. So the plots for the play, the stories, I think in the way that I'm guessing, you could probably interview Armando, but I'm guessing making them evergreen was good. Like a government shutdown is a classic battle between Democrats and Republicans about getting their pork barrel funds through, and then, so that's going to be in a season, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And like issues like abortion can be polarizing no matter what party, and placing Supreme Court justice. So there were like, generic's not a right word, but there were traditional story arcs that were always going to happen. And then when Selena in season 5 is building a library or loses the election, then they interview Mitt Romney about what it's like the second they drop you off and the Secret Service detail says, okay, you're on your own now or whatever.
Oh yeah.
Like, how do you come back from losing an election? And he was very like, for example,
He's like, you run for governor of Utah.
Yeah. Senator. Did he go governor first and then senator?
Oh yeah, senator. My bad.
Yeah, no. I thought he might have made a run. But yeah, that's like, but that's kind of a guy being truthful and a little forthcoming about the humanness of like, oh, that really hurt, and you really put yourself out there, and then you go back to jokes or whatever. I don't know. So there's a lot of interesting people that came through, a lot of heavyweight Obama folks and Clinton folks, and I met a lot of great chiefs of staff, Dee Dee Myers and Jay Carney, and I got to do some great research, and that was really helpful to understand. One of I probably said this in interviews before, but I remember some chief of staff / like director of communications for a congressman in Illinois said, she's like, oh my God, I keep my relationship. There were times where I kept my relationship with the press over the candidate because I knew the guy wasn't going to laugh. Like, so you know what I mean? You have these people with their career inside the camp of the candidate, and he was like, "Oh my God, are you dummy? No, I'm definitely going to keep this relationship because this guy ain't going anywhere." You know what I mean?
That's the Dan Egan character right there for sure.
Yeah, and also a little like corporate laddery. She wasn't a shark. I met the woman. She was like more practical. You know what I mean? It wasn't so.
You gotta keep the career going.
You got to keep the career going. So that's what was another way into the workplace comedy. Because if you go to DC, you see thousands of people, but like one of them might have an office. Everybody else is like, a lobbyist or like an assistant to a judge or a clerk. Like there's so many things that aren't politics that are huddled around the DC decision makers.
Mm-hmm.
So one question I do have is like, do you see a parallel between like the world of comedy and acting with the world of like political, just like politics in general? Like, do you think it's like a similar thing? It's like you pay your dues and eventually you make it up, or you get one big break?
I'm not sure what your question is.
I guess it's like, is it similar? Like, so from your, like when you were coming up, like in like acting and comedy, is it like very similar, like meeting all these people from like the political background? Like, do they go through a similar thing? Like, is it like anything else? Like you pay your dues and like make it up, or is it just completely
I can only
different?
say I feel like politics is a completely different, difficult, awful animal than being an actor or a comedian. Because I feel like a comedian, you have this, I don't know, journeyman trade. Like you hone jokes, you hone material, you learn how to approach material, you learn how to break it down. You also create relationships which give you opportunity, but you're also like, you learn to edit, you learn to write, you learn to produce just to keep, your career.
So you can kind of find more skills within that trade, whereas like politics are just kind of like a dark thing.
You're going to really corner me on this question.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. You can totally.
No, I know. I'm trying to give you like a best answer, which to me is like the skills to politics. Like I read books about, Lyndon Johnson and Lincoln and great Obama. Like, so their skills are like, they know that message matters and they know that appearance or delivery, however you deliver the message matters as well. But at the end of the day, if you keep it simple and you really believe what you're preaching, that's probably the best way to succeed in politics. Granted, you got to kiss ass and you got to suck up, but like, it seems like the Machiavellian game and pulling the strings is just, like Joe Biden seems like that guy. He seems like an authentic guy who's not perfect, but he cares about like common working people. He wants to know your story. He wants to hear about the cook at the restaurant. And his message is like, I believe in America where people can get a job and buy a house. I'm a union man. And I think he believes that. And I think that message, keeping it simple is probably an easier way to succeed in politics than the machinations and like the Frank Underwood of politics. That's my take. But I would never be a politician. I think that's the worst job in the world. And like, I would be like, at some point, I'd be like, shut the fuck up. Because people are constantly telling you something you've done like 5 days of research on to get the bill right. And then some jamoke has a soundbite that they want to see themselves on C-SPAN saying to you in some hearing. It's like, shut the fuck up.
I know.
And so that was kind of part of my question is like, we literally have an actor for a fucking president. And so that was kind of my connection to it. It's like, how does a guy like that who has no fucking experience
He's a reality star.
I wouldn't call him an actor.
Exactly.
I mean, I don't even think he could like be a reality star because he's not a real fucking human being.
I mean, he did show Kevin where to go in Home Alone.
That's true. Sort of. He told him to go that way.
That was the last good thing he's done in his life. So
Wait,
anyway.
Matt, we had Jim O'Hare on a little while ago, and I was just wondering, did you know him from Chicago?
Yeah.
Because there's so many funny people from Chicago, and like, was there a crew?
Jim and I came out of a little tiny improv school called Players Workshop, and he was in a sketch group called White Noise. Mm-hmm. And I was in a sketch group called Department of Works. These are 30 years ago. And we would see each other all the time. And we did a play together. My first play ever was a play that Jim O'Hare was in. We played apostles in this like Easter play called The Gathering. And it was all these hilariously funny people. And we were
I think we talked about The Gathering.
Yes, we were terribly disrespectful of the material and goofing off and having too much wine just to have fun with each other.
Yeah, he would mention that anytime you came on the show, when you showed up or anybody he knew showed up, he would be even happier because you don't get to work together as much as you used to. So like when you showed up on Parks and Rec, he was thrilled. Yeah,
no, he's a great he's a great talent. He's always been so funny. I've seen him forever. Yeah, we started probably the same time. We probably landed in Chicago right out of college. I don't know where Jim went to college, but yeah, we probably landed out of college.
Loyola. I think he went to Loyola.
Did he go to? Very good memory. Yeah, he went to LA before me, and I went to New York for like 8 years. So we probably split, and then we both ended up in LA.
Who else was part of this crew?
Well, back
Obama.
There's a couple people, a guy named Ed Furman who still does stuff at Second City in Chicago. And then a guy named Ned Crowley who runs like an ad agency. He's a good, funny dude who directs movies too, actually. And then from that, it became the Annoyance Theater and places like UCB. And then I started doing UCB.
Mm-hmm. Well,
really cool.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that you did some audio projects recently. So, like, when you said audio project, I was curious as to what you meant. Are you talking more podcast, or is it more like scripted audio?
Yeah, it's like a scripted fiction, and one's called like The Last Degree of Kevin Bacon, and I play a psycho who thinks he should have been the guy. He should have been the guy in Footloose.
That's how I feel every time I watch Footloose, which is about twice a year.
That sounds great.
Well, you particularly would love this podcast because it goes deep, and Kevin was such a sport to kind of poke fun at his career and his ubiquitous nature, and his wife was in Akira, and she was great. Honestly, it's like really fun and toys with the idea of fame in a really good way. And then this other one is a small thing on Stitcher called Finding Marcus Tronk, where I play a guy who, almost like Zelig, was making great documentaries that no one ever saw through like late 80s till like 2010 when he disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very interesting stuff. And where can people check you out? Your Twitter is just at Matt Walsh. Is that correct?
Yes, I am Mr. Matt Walsh. There's another Matt Walsh who's a bad Matt Walsh.
Yes, I know. And it aggravated me every time I searched for something and got him.
Look up his name. What is his name on Twitter? Can we do that really quick?
Yeah, sure.
What is his code? Anyways, we couldn't be more different. Like, we happen to have the same name. But
that's what
he's somebody who, like, when Robin Williams killed himself, he wrote an article that said he has no pity for people who take their life, basically.
Oh, Jesus. One of those.
That's like bootstraps mentality insanity, right?
Yeah, that's
just garbage.
You should.
That's just absolutely trash.
I agree. That was like the first moment I'm like, this guy is bad news.
Yeah.
I'm not even a nice guy, and like even I'm like, yikes, give it a minute.
Robin Williams is the first celebrity I've ever met, and he was the nicest man in the whole world.
Oh my God.
I was a little kid in Central Park. He was so nice.
What a great memory.
So
I know. I still remember how blue his eyes were.
Yeah, he was a wonderful man. Gosh.
So I'm actually in Keene, New Hampshire, which is where they shot Jumanji, or a lot of the scenes in Jumanji. And so whenever we go downtown to get food or coffee, like there's the big pair of shoes, like just like, I guess like mural that's in the movie, and like the scene where they shot all of like the elephant, like trampolines and stuff like that. Like that's in this town. And it's just, I can't help but think of him every single time that we go downtown, which is wonderful because he doesn't fucking love Robin Williams.
You worked with him, Matt?
No, I never have, but he's wonderful. I don't know him. I miss him. World According to Garp changed my life. That movie was so sweet and perfect.
Great novel. Great.
His energy and his stand-up was remarkable. And he had he did some crazy, great stuff as an actor. He did all kinds of stuff. He was amazing.
Yeah, great on the
phone. And he's made me cry. He's made me cry so many fucking times.
Do that really easy.
He cries a lot, though, Matt. You know, Franco.
Well, people, yeah. You know, I watched a documentary recently about Elvis. Did you see that one, The Searcher?
No.
So it's pretty good. I think it's on Showtime. It's like a two-parter. And for take it or leave it, I grew up with like drug-addled, chubby Elvis. So he was kind of a joke by the time I was like of age to consume media and buy comedy records, whatever I was up to at like my early teens. But like you see, it's so easy to dismiss, somebody in your first introduction. Like my children learn about early Saturday Night Live by like watching it on YouTube, like anecdotally, but to really understand Elvis's influence as one example, you really appreciate like, oh, he was a great artist. He was like a great artist. And it's weird to like come into that realization like 40 years after somebody's dead.
Yeah. You know, it's people remember the bad Elvis more than anything else. People remember,
I know.
You know, the because it was funny and it's been the joke. And especially somebody like you who you mentioned listen to comedy albums when you were a kid. That's exactly what I would do. I'd get the National Lampoon albums and Firesign Theater and the Cheech and Chong records and all of these different records, and you'd listen to that, and it does kind of give you impressions that you take with you of you know, an impression of Elvis was always that, you know, the fat Elvis is the joke, you know? So I can see where you'd bring that with you.
Yeah, and I'm not really trying to. It's a good documentary, and it's just that how quick people are in this moment of media that's 24/7. Obviously, to see one video or one clip on YouTube and decide entirely about someone's career or their value. Do you know what I mean? It's just like, it's tricky.
It's so true.
Talking to the kids out there who vote, get out there and vote.
They have to. They have to get out and vote. That's
People think you're lazy. Make sure you vote, you youngsters.
Very true. But Matt, I know you just came in from a flight, so I want to thank you again for all the time that you've given us. It was great talking to you, and I want to thank you for all of the years of laughs that you've given us, and I can't wait to see what you're working on next. I'm excited about it for sure. If you ever need anything, promote anything, you say the word. And
I'll come back and we'll chat. This was fun. And don't go to Matt Walsh blog. That's not me.
Just went on it while he was doing the ID, and it's a weird person.
I don't have a blog.
Hold on 1 second. All right, we'll be back next week with Dennis DeYoung, and later, motherfuckers.
Welcome to the Hole.